Hey, Frank Paris here. What you're looking at is an Automa, Automa, which is the short term for automaton. And these automatons were very popular back in the early 1700s, 1800s, and 1900s, and in the early 20th century. They were produced in France and in Germany by watchmakers. These were singing music boxes with birds on them, or wind up singing birds with bellows in them. I can show you what a bellows looks like in a minute. Actually, I'll show you right now. It looks like that. That's a bellows. Now, this has been completely restored by me. I have put a new bellows in here. I've added some parts, which there was a learning curve in how to do this, but I bugged a bunch of people who know how to do this, and it took me about oh almost a year to kind of get this to look almost brand new. I didn't want to mess around with too many of the finer uh, components of this unit. I left them alone, but like 60% of it has been changed. The only things that have been changed are things that were worn out and could not be restored. And so one of them was the bellows, and the other items were just various gears which I got as parts from people who build and repair these things. So I got pretty lucky with the learning curve, and I got pretty lucky with actually making this work and work to my satisfaction. And so this bird, okay, this singing bird, is basically something that a fellow named Del Rey, a magician named Del Rey, who was very into electronics back in the 70s and 80s and even the 90s, when I think he passed away. And he used these electronic components, and in this particular case, the singing bird, in his parlor act and in his close up act. He would have the bird mentally select a card by chirping. And he added a remote control to a mechanical wind up bird. And that's what this is. This is a mechanical wind up bird. You can see it's a wind up. And what he did was he added whatever electronics he needed to make that bird sing. And the wind up mechanical bird didn't have any electronic components. So, how did he do it? Well, I got a chance to look at it a number of years ago, and I saw what seemed to me to look like a solenoid. And it was a solenoid, but it was first generation solenoid. And it was big and pretty much took away a lot of the space inside the base of the bird mechanism. He needed a lot of space, and he had to build a different base on it, and then add a round covering and that kind of thing. So I didn't have to do that because in today's 20th century electronics, everything's been miniaturized and digitized and whateverized you want to call it. So I have taken this unit, this particular 1955 singing bird, a German singing bird, and I have added a solenoid, a current solenoid, state of the art solenoid. I've added that along with a lever, which, if you look here, you can see a little lever here, right here. And I fashioned this out of galvanized steel, cut it with a tin snip. And by the way, this is a piece of galvanized steel. In this case, it's really tin, or I'm not sure really what it is. I think it's that was tin. This is aluminum, okay, but it's a little thicker. So what I've done is fashioned another one right here, so you can see what it looks like, and I put it on the solenoid. Okay, it's on the solenoid. It's screwed onto the solenoid, and if you look here, we got the same situation going on here. Okay, and what that's doing is it's when the solenoid is activated, by a receiver, which is right up here. Okay, it pushes the lever, which is right here, the mechanical lever, so that the bird will start singing. And I'm going to just get the remote control to show you. Here's the remote control. Okay, so that's the start. And here's the stop. Sorry, here's the stop right there. Okay, and the bird stops. So what you're looking at here, if you look, is A on this remote control activates the receiver, pushes the solenoid forward, and pushes the lever forward because it's connected to this little piece of metal. And when you hit the stop, it pushes it back, and the bird stops. So on, and then off. On, and then off. Okay, so now, and this took a while to figure out. I mean, it really, I didn't know what I was going to use to actually activate that lever. I had the ability to make it remote control, but I needed a mechanical apparatus, and this is the case. This little piece of metal is really the mystic mainspring behind actually doing that, accomplishing that feat, and making the solenoid go forward and back, using a receiver to activate the solenoid. Now I've connected the receiver. By the way, this is the receiver. You can see it. That's a receiver. Of course, you've got your positive and negative power supply here, which if I can, with one hand, just spread these two guys apart. It's the red and the black, actually. These two guys are your positive and negative, and they go directly and connect directly to the 9-volt battery, which is right here, okay? And then the other two guys, okay, these two guys, the yellow or the blue, and it doesn't matter which one, go to the solenoid two wires, all right? So when you connect and when you connect these two wires to the yellow and blue, okay, and that to a power source, okay, you get the receiver, okay, activated by the transmitter. And then everything is, well, in this case, it's double taped down here because I wanted to be able to take this off and take the Velcro off the 9-volt battery, and I wanted to be able to restore it back to its original format if I had to. And I mean, there's no reason to, okay? And then I'm going to show you part. I'm going to try to do this, but I may have to make a part 2. I'm going to put the base back on the bird if I can. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to lay it on here, okay? And I'm going to make sure, if I can, to make sure that the metal piece here, okay, that's the problem here. Okay, let me just take that off. Okay, so basically what I'm doing here, let me just test this one more time. Okay, all right, so now it's off. What I'm trying to do is put this base, connect this base, put the base back on here, okay, with the lever more to this side than the other side. And if I had two hands, I could put it on like so, more on that side right here, see? Let's turn it off here, and more on that side, and then push it down, okay? It's not totally on, but this will give you an idea. Let's just get this. This does go on beautifully, but unfortunately, I need two hands to do it. I need two hands to guide this thing. But just to be on the safe side, all right, oh, there we go. It's on here now. So now that's off. I just want to make sure now that I can see that. It's activated and deactivated. And then, of course, I added a little tiny switch, okay? I ran a switch from the battery pack, the red here, over to the positive side, one side of the switch, and then the other side of the switch went to the other part of the 9-volt battery pack. Okay, this was already I'm sorry. Let me try that again. I ran this power piece right here, this positive battery wire from the receiver to one side of the toggle switch, and then I ran the other side to the 9-volt battery. Okay, and then the black I connected directly to the battery, so that when I turn this switch on, which if I turn this over, you can see there is the switch. All right, right there. There's the switch. And that's how we turn on the power. So we can turn the power on and off. Right now it's off. And if I turn it on, now I have power to the receiver. Okay? All right. And then, of course, I would hit the transmitter and receiver button on the brown remote. Okay? And that would be what activates the singing bird. So this basically is how I created the ability to take a mechanical item, and you could use this for any kind of toy, wind-up toy you have too. If you can get the solenoid, the receiver, and the 9-volt battery into whatever housing that that wind-up comes in. But basically what you've done is you've just made this mechanical part that's on the wind-up that you would normally just push forward and back. You've turned it into a remote control item. And Del Rey used the bird in his act, and he used what was called a toe switch. So instead of having a remote control that you have in your hand, he had a switch that ran up, okay, with a remote control in his pocket, okay, and he would press the button. All right, and when he pressed the button with his toe, it would activate the bird and make the bird chirp. And he would say to the bird, "Is this the card?" And the bird would chirp and say, "Oh no, it's not. Okay, let me do the next card. Is that the card?" And the bird would say, "Chirp, chirp," and he would say, "Okay, that's it. See, the bird knows how to read your mind. He knows what card you picked." And of course, he probably forced the card. But there is a routine up there that I put up there years ago that I shot at Tannen's, where he is actually doing a routine with the bird. Okay, just type in Del Rey Magic or Tannen's Jubilee Del Rey performance, and you'll come to it. It's on my YouTube channel, Frank Paris. And basically, one last thing. This piece of metal here, okay, if you see how it's fashioned, this is a little trial and error that you're going to have in order to get the, let me just pull this off if I can again. Okay, we'll just take this right off, real gentle. Now, put this over here, sorry. This is a trial and error thing where you're going to have to maybe figure out how long you need to make that piece of metal. And then you're going to do a punch hole on the one piece of metal that's coming up, and then do your drilling. Make the hole smaller than the solenoid screw here, and then take some kind of a Phillips screwdriver or a screw, and just open it up a little bit. Don't try to make the hole bigger than the hole that it slips in. You want it to kind of screw on or thread on, because there is a thread on the solenoid. So if it screws on and threads on, when you push this forward, it's going to stay in one place. Okay, this piece of metal will stay where it's supposed to stay and push the lever forward. If you make the hole too big, what's going to happen is you're going to push this, and this is going to slide back because it's got nothing to hold it. That's why this one here has, the hole is just about the same size as the thread. It's, in fact, I had to force that onto the screw, and then I put the nut On top of that, I screwed that back in, and I've got a nice little situation. And here, again, if you look at the real estate in here, it's not the easiest in the world. And then if you look at this here, this has really got a small footprint. This is the receiver, okay, and that'll just get double stick taped to the get the 30 or 40 pound double stick tape from Home Depot, and just double stick tape it here on top of this, and leave the antenna just the way you see it. Don't stretch it out. Some guys like to stretch out their antennas on their remote control transmitters and receivers. Okay, I'm also going to include pictures of this particular remote control transmitter receiver and pictures of this solenoid and the model numbers. That you can get these on Amazon. That's going to be included in the package when somebody decides to do it themselves, and I'll charge them a small fee. And if they want me to build them this, it's not going to be, the Automa is going to cost you about $3,200, and I'll throw in the remote control for free, because these things are very expensive, especially in this condition. This is in almost perfect condition, and this is 80 years old. It was in 1950 they were making these, and this I think is in 1955. So you're talking about 70 to 80 years old on these things, and if they're restored like this with all new parts and stuff and a new bellows, they go for big bucks, like between $3,500 and $4,500. So don't expect this to be cheap if you want me to make one. In fact, I just sold this one for $3,200 because I did most of the restoration, and they want so much money for a restored one, and I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to make sure it was done right. And it took me a while because I had to learn all about these things before I could do any work on them. Okay, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube, and I watched a lot of booklets and Automa books and that kind of thing. I read a couple of those things, so I pretty much I'm not an expert, but if something came in broke, I could probably do the repair if it wasn't something so totally internal in the mechanism. But replacing a gear wasn't too big a deal for me. I did that on 2 of these gears. I put new gears in, and that's basically it. This is the unit, and if you want to see Del Rey doing his act using the bird, then just go to I think it's the second volume. I put 4 volumes up there, and I think it's the second volume of Del Rey doing his bird K routine. It's about halfway through the second volume, because he does some card tricks before that, dice tricks, and you'll see the bird. It's not exactly the same bird. In fact, this bird is a lot better than the one he had. His was all scrawny and broken and looked like crap, but this doesn't look like crap. I mean, I leave the cage off. I don't put the cage back on. But when the base is back on, this really looks beautiful. And if you want to do it with the cage on, that's fine. But everybody I talked to who wanted to own one of these said that they liked the way Del Rey did it, where the bird was out in the open, it wasn't in the cage. And I kind of agree with them. So that's basically it. This is the remote control Del Rey bird cage with the updated 21st century digital electronics to make the bird remote control. And it was created by me. And any inquiries you may have, just private message me, Frank Paris, private message me in Messenger, or get in touch with me at my website. And my email address is V as in Victor, OYANT, the number 1, at optonline.net. And thank you, and have a good evening and a good rest of the year. It's almost over. 2020 is almost over. Thanks, guys. Frank Paris, over and out.